Raila Odinga is at an interesting space. That space being that he wants to have a handshake with Ruto. The only question that is left is, how do we bamboozle the public? Baby, calm down. Calm down.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the Hot Breakfast this morning? Here's what you missed.
Look at the state of the nation, and who better than two young men who speak their minds without fear of contradiction. That's right, Mark Bichachi, political strategist and analyst, is in the house, as is Nurdin Kagai. He's an advocate of the High Court and political analyst as well. Gentlemen, good to see you. Welcome back. The Hustler Fund, 1 year on, and the Kenya Kwanza administration is saying, hey, man, this has been the biggest success so far.
Okay, let's measure success. Is it by how much money has been given out or what that money has done? How do you measure success? You see, this is the problem with how this country is being run of late. They still think that if you tell a good story, you've done a good thing. So basically what they're saying is they gave people a bunch of 500 shillings. Some of them paid back, some of them did not. And therefore, they did a good thing. Let me tell you the truth. I dare anyone listening to me to tell me how their lives have significantly changed by that 500 shillings when the price of commodities has also increased by more than that 500 shillings. It is ridiculous. I am sorry. Loaning people money, 500 bob at a time, is not going to change this country. In fact, the only thing it did is increase the money supply in the market and make inflation worse.
That's the government, Fuliza. Because, and let's just be honest, because we have made a policy over Fuliza, and that's what the government is doing. I had the president say how it has changed the lives of so many of those people who have actually borrowed money. He talked about Mamboga, a tuk-tuk rider, and it all. Now this is my question. That Mamboga that has borrowed that hustler fund and has been able to buy stock. Now, once they wakitandika ile stock yao pale chini, and there's no one to buy because there's no income. So what does that help that Mamboga with? Because that stock is going to get sale. And at the end of the day, when nobody is buying because there's no income. The president of the other day talked about how housing has employed 120,000 people. At the same time, courtesy of the policies, the tax policies that we are seeing, 70,000 people have lost jobs. So it's a zero-sum game. So at the end of the day, I believe the policies the government is running, most of them actually don't work. And that is why you see whatever we are seeing and the current state of the nation. And I believe the Hustler Fund is just more or less, most of the people actually just use it for, when it's Friday, sherehe, machangisha wanunue mzinga, and they keep it moving. But then I believe it hasn't really impacted fully in what they would want. But I believe since they had a promise that they will bring about a Hustler Fund, and they have brought their Fuliza, so we wait to see.
When you borrow Fuliza, you borrow 500 shillings.
Right.
Part of that money is taken and put in an account. It's called a savings. So, you have a savings account, Jeff. It's where Hot 96 wires your money, right? Yeah. It has a name, it has a number, and you can access it.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So these people who've saved Hustler Fund money, where is it saved?
Where do they check it?
Well, how do you check your balance?
Can they remove the savings? Can they? Or what is the purpose of the savings?
Yeah.
How are they saving until they are dead?
And after you save, which document did you sign to open that account?
So you're saying that money doesn't exist?
No, just hold on. Hold on. So let's do some math. Let's assume, for example, that 30 billion shillings, it's more now, but let's take it at 30 billion shillings, has been borrowed, right? Let's say 5% is in savings, right? That, my friend, is 1.5 billion shillings, okay?
5%.
5% is 1.5 billion. So, if that money is sitting in an account that I'm assuming is a fixed deposit because that's a smart thing to do, but let's assume it's a savings account accruing interest at 7%. 7% of 1.5 billion, my friend, is in the woods of around 120 million shillings per annum. Right?
Yeah.
That interest goes where?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So you tell me, with accounting like that, where the first 50 billion that was given, it is in court today, and it is a matter of record that it did not come from the exchequer.
Yes.
So you've got 50 billion air money being distributed to people through a system we've not audited yet. Then there is a savings account to which money is going that we do not know the account, the status of the account, the signatories to the account, and how it is being managed. So congratulations, you are doing very well, or you are being scammed.
That also speaks to the housing levy stock fund. You know, this is the thing. You're told that a deduction is going to be made every month. Now, to the best of my knowledge, whenever you're buying property, let's say because technically this is off plan, you're supposed to see where the site of where you're buying, how long you're going to have, how long that project is going to take. Number two, the completion, the documentation. Now here's the problem. Article 35 talks about access to information. We don't even know the private entities that are carrying out this housing experience. So at the end of the day, you have a scenario where governors are also complaining, where they are told to give out tracts of land for housing. And then the same land, some of them are community land, end up in the hands of a private investor who will either rent or sell the same houses to you. So you ask yourself the question, where are the transfer documents? Is the land transferred? Is there payment for the transfer from the government to the private investors? So those are the questions. Then number two, you're told that this thing will carry on for 7 years. So the question is, after 7 years, what happens? And you don't have a house. And since you don't even know where your house has been constructed, they might finish and tell you, by the way, you live in a room, but your house is in Isiolo. Where was the concurrence that I will move to Isiolo? So at the end of the day, you find yourself in a situation where, if at all, you want to, let's say, for example, charge the same individuals that have taken your money, where do you go? Which office do you go to?
Are we that dumb, that gullible, or that desperate?
I personally like the idea of the housing program. Why? Because ideally it should get rid of slums, it should give poor people places to live, and in the long run it should affect two things. It should affect rents, because people have options where they can get cheaper houses. It will affect mortgages, taking them from the 16-18%, even more now, to 8-6%. Good news. Where is the gullibility? The gullibility is this. The housing fund was supposed to be a levy that was supposed to sit in a particular kitty to build houses. We turned it into a tax. It was supposed to be refundable. It is now not refundable. So when you put in your money, it is gone and gone forever, regardless of whether you get a house, you benefit from it or not. Right? So that already speaks to the unconstitutionality which the court was talking about. Because you cannot, one, put a levy into the consolidated fund, and two, it is the finance bill is about taxation. It's all about levies. A levy should have its own standalone legislation. Wakili here will tell you. But at the core of the confusion is this, that houses are being built, we don't know where. The money for which we pay for the housing fund does not actually build houses. It does not.
Where does it go?
It is supposed to guarantee offtake. It is supposed to be that the house has been built, and because the builder built it at his cost, government is guaranteeing that this particular house will be bought by Kenyans, because there should be an entity called the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company that is supposed to make all that happen. Now, here is the problem. Part of the issue that I have with this Kenya Kwanza government is this sudden policy shift thing they do. NHIF is here today, tomorrow it's gone. Yeah. Do you have a number that you can call to sign up for SHIF?
No.
USSD code? Are you guys running an advertisement, a campaign to tell people how to join? No. So, SHIF, good idea. I want to be treated for free. No one wants to pay a price. But how is it being executed? Who knows? Where do I go? Do I go to the chief? Do I go to the nurse? Do I go to the dispensary? Do I go to the clinic? Do I go to where NHF used to be in Upper Hill? Where do I go?
The High Court jumped in and stopped this housing tax, right?
Yeah.
But then the ministry or the government says, no, continue deducting.
You see, they were given a stay. There was a stay, which I really didn't agree to, because once you term something an illegality, then
unconstitutional.
Why would you then give it a stay to continue to happen? You know, it's like, stealing is bad, but just steal until we come and catch you. It doesn't make sense, So at the end of the day, I believe we need to look at it, because the petitioners were right in that, you cannot have a law for a specific individual.
Correct.
That becomes negatory. It's not a law at the end of the day, because it should cut across. And that's why, people were saying, why do you have only this law is only for those who are employed? Why should only be those who are employed pay for housing? What about the other people who are not employed? But you get to realize that it was a campaign gimmick in that ambao kuna pesa wataki nyinyi mpate nyumba. The sad reality is that, you see, we talk about slum upgrading, talk about eradicating slums, and that is not the issue. You don't eradicate slums by concrete. It's an income problem. You might end up building all those beautiful houses in the slum area. The same people won't be able to move because they have no money. Or are they supposed to move in there and eat the concrete? It doesn't make sense. So you have to work on the income. So when you work on the income, and that's why you see the court was saying that if it's going to be a tax, then everybody has to pay. So if it's going to be if you generate more income, then it means that everybody will be able to pay. But if you can't, then it becomes an illegality, null and void. But the sad reality is that the government is run on chest stamping, and there's this craze of being, we are the first to do this, the first to do that. And that's why they've moved NHF to SHIF. So many new things that are coming up so as to show that they are working, and also they are the first to do it. It was a term they used for the first government to do this, first government to bring about an inquiry on state capture. But the sad reality to me is that something like state capture, the law they want to come up with and the commission, it can't work. Because when you talk about state capture, let's look at it for 60 years. But if you talk about just want to look at it because of Uhuru was president, you have to realize that high-ranking officials in his government are same high-ranking officials in this government. So if your chopper, your hotel, your businesses ended up doing business with the government, that's state capture. It's more or less like the Guptas. They were so powerful that they could even influence cabinet positions, government policy. The same people we have in this government were that powerful until, I think, they said Raila came in and ruined the relationship, the camaraderie. So at the end of the day, I do believe that it's more or less like, it's like a gimmick to confuse Kenyans. Every new day there's something new to shift your focus from this to that. Now you ran a story on edible oils. So you wait to see the next confusion, so we move away from that. Clearly, the KEBS has come out and said, before we even talk about the mine that was lost, now we're being told that it doesn't meet the standards.
If you want to make a quick buck as a corrupt person, you get into fast-moving consumer goods. That's why there's always been a maize scandal. There's always been a fertilizer scandal, because the demand for these things is high. So we know edible oils, there is a demand, right? So what do? You create a crisis that didn't exist, because we did not have an edible oil crisis. You create a crisis, disrupt the market, force the market to buy from this thing that you've brought, so that you make a quick dollar on every barrel that is being sold. That is exactly what the problem is now. When your focus is making a quick buck, you never care about the quality of what you're doing. And that's what I keep saying. This thing is ambitious. It was very ambitious. Come reduce the cost of edible oils. But the execution is rubbish. It's the same thing with this KCP issue. They were ambitious. Let's bring the results for the first time before Christmas. So that if you failed, you are depressed at Christmas, and you passed, you're happy at Christmas. But what happened instead? There's a huge mess.
And the computer error.
Yes. So guys, seriously need to calm down. This project, slow down.
Maybe you can help me understand this. Is the selling of parastatals.
Oh God.
Help me understand.
When the president came in, he had a meeting with the stakeholders in this Parastatal board that was supposed to ensure that parastatals are sold. Now, this idea is not new. It's an old idea. Now, the idea was this, and I'll give you an example of places maybe you've seen or visited that brought about this idea. So the idea of selling such a parastatal was government is no longer in the business of trying to spur people to own hotels, right? Because now next to it there are dozens of hotels, beach resorts with better mattresses, better AC, and generally even better receptionists, because the receptionist will much rather you jump into the ocean than serve you. So that makes sense, because it is not making money, it is not of strategic interest to the country. That was the idea. The idea was not to take a company that is of strategic importance like Kenya Pipeline and sell it for two reasons. Number one, Kenya Pipeline actually makes money for government, right? Number two, why would we give Kamau or Wepuhulu the right to own the pipeline? And then when government delays to pay the bill, as we often do, Wepuhulu decides that the oil is shut off.
It's going to shut down the pipe.
Right.
The pipe.
So it is of strategic importance to keep that asset within the control of the government, because then it is controlled and owned by all of us. If government tomorrow does not pay Kenya Pipeline, it will still keep working. But the problem with our government is that we are in such big hurries that we make technical mistakes. So, for example, KICC is listed among the heritage sites similar to museums in this country. Right?
Yes.
How can we sell it?
Yeah. Who does that?
How can we sell it? It's like you going home and finding the grave of Mzee Koinange and say, you know what? This tombstone looks nice. Let's sell it. You'd be mad.
I'll be slaughtered.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. There are matters of national pride that we cannot sell. Right?
Yeah.
And secondly, it is not a loss-making institution. This is the problem. Listen, if you want to get rid of assets, any person will tell you, get rid of the assets that make losses. Sell that Mumias thing. Fine. Yeah. Sell Mombasa and Kisumu Beach Resort. Sell them. Don't sell Kenya Pipeline. Why? It is of strategic importance. We sold Kenya Power, right?
Yeah.
We sold Kengen. Look at our bills. Look at our bills. It is profitable for them to cost us. And then, please, if you want to hold a monopoly, as Kenya Pipeline is, do not make it a trading company, because then they can charge whatever they want.
What happened to Azimo in all this, Mark? And you know them inside out. What happened? Because Bomas was a mess. Like Nuruddin said, it was a mess.
Yes.
Nothing was achieved.
Yes.
And now going forward, yes, it's quite mute.
You see, there's a saying among betters, wanasema beti imekunywa maji, Azimio ilikunywa maji, you know. If William Ruto was in opposition today, he'd be having a field day. If roles were reversed and Raila was doing what Ruto is doing now, Ruto would go to town with it. But Raila Odinga is at an interesting space. That space being that he wants to have a handshake with Ruto without having a handshake with Ruto. Let me explain. If you want proof that there was a handshake, the creation of the position of leader of opposition with all its parks and 2 deputies was for who?
Raila.
Yes, because it's not for Mark or anybody else here. You know, so there is something for him, right?
Yeah.
There is also the creation of the position of Prime Minister. This is a desire that Azimio has had. So, politically speaking, the handshake is fine. The only question that is left is, how do we bamboozle the public?
Well,
and the way to bamboozle the public is to claim that now you absolutely hate the report that clearly, if you look at how it is written, the parts about politics, the parts about positions have deadlines, timelines, and methodologies. The parts about cost of living are full of suggestions. It's like they're scratching their heads and saying, maybe we should have the cost of fuel. It is nonsense. Let me tell you, the political part is sorted, and I think it's a good thing. Because I've always said that I would rather have someone who's run for presidency leading the opposition than Opio and I. Because if I ask the Kenyans, if I give them 10 pictures of random men, ask them which one is Opio and I, they have no clue. Right? So it is a good thing. I have no problem with that. But guess what? Our stake in it has not been taken care of at all. So let's not Azimo bamboozle us. Let's be very clear. In that report, there was nothing for me and you.
This thing was just BBI 2, but now without a beat. Because BBI 1 was reggae, and you know the president doesn't listen to reggae. He's a fan of Solomon Mkubwa. So this is BBI 2, but without a beat. So at the end of the day, I believe this is BBI 2, and the incentive in this was cost of living, so that to make you see that we're talking about your issues. But once their interests were catered for, your issues now have suggestions as opposed to solutions. And these so-called suggestions have to go through Parliament, because you see, laws are made in Parliament, and who enjoys tyranny of numbers in Parliament? Do you think the President of the Republic of Kenya is going to amend the taxes that he's put in place? Never. So we have a situation where the opposition have been taken for a ride, they have been managed, or walegula. And that is the state of the nation.
Is this Arab Moi 2.0?
This is, you know, he is his best student, if you're going to be honest. This is student number one in his class, because he's taken everything from Arab and he's run with it, perfected it, courtesy of working with Raila, seen how Uhuru did his things, and he has polished his skills from Moi. And this is Moi's best student, and that is why you see him selling Parastatals for a song.
I may not have voted for them, I may not have agreed with them, I still don't, but I need them to succeed. So let us divide them. You guys are ambitious, I'll give you that. Universal healthcare, brilliant. Making sure we borrow in Kenya shillings versus dollars, brilliant. G2G, the idea, brilliant. Rome was not built in a day. Slow down. You cannot introduce taxes every week and expect us to be okay. We will not be okay.
Yeah.
You cannot make significant changes to healthcare and not inform us about it enough for us to be competent to actually use it. For example, I don't know if I walked into Nairobi Hospital or Kenyatta Hospital, are they both free? Which one is free? Right? How much of this insurance will pay for me to go to Nairobi Hospital, and how much of it will pay at Kenyatta? I don't know. So you've hurried, you've made it public. It's a good thing. Imagine I want it to work. I'm so desperate for it to work. But my dear friends, stop being ambitious but rubbish. Be ambitious, slow, methodical, and successful. Please. Because, listen, I would rather you and I fight in 2027 in a country that is stable and we see who's president again. That's fine. But I can't afford for you to make mistakes with the things that you want to do. So please, calm down. There's a song. In fact, we should dedicate that song, Baby, Calm Down.
Calm down.
Yeah.
You got it.